it's against when we do it, but it's not okay when other people do it against us.
Many Muslims, but they read from the Quran and the Sunnah the right way, and the actual saying of theirs, it makes no difference.
And then you wonder why your children are coming up with all of these doubts.
I used to think in the darkness, how could one being really be the one to tell us
Spoken
how
word.
to become something so sacred?
We don't want to have our children just be Muslims by name or by name. We want, because everyone at one point in their life, they have to make a conscious decision.
The question here is, how can I help guide a person who was brought up Muslim and due to the personal experience is straying away and leaning towards other religions or atheism, and the other one will tackle both of these at the same time. How should I go about giving dawah to a person who is aggressively passionate? It's underlined here, aggressively passionate of their atheist beliefs. I personally don't believe that there is anything, even though the term is used atheist, that there's no such thing as an atheist. I believe there's a person who's confused. The root of the matter is that there is an institution set up from the high schools, from the elementary schools to the high schools, and even deeper in the colleges, where you have a secular atheist system set up to give you dawah, to get you out of your deen. So when you go into this ocean not well equipped, and then you wonder why your children are coming up with all of these doubts, and then when you go to the colleges, you go to the frat parties, it's a vacation from home. So then what happens, a mask gets put on. And when I talk to a lot of these people who claim to be atheists, when you dig a little deeper, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Excuse me. They just want to follow their lusts, passions, and desires. And the conscience, they want to turn it off because it's eating them away. So I'm just going to deny God. There's a great documentary called Expelled. Write this down. I want everybody to watch it. No Intelligence Allowed. It's done by some academics, some Christians, and it shows that anyone who argues for creationism, for there being a creator, from the academic community, it shows the mafia-style gang mentality of the academics who gang up on these individuals. So now you don't want to get blacklisted. You don't want to get excluded from the social events. So many people are not courageous enough to come out, so they shut these people down. I told you, the system is set up to take you away from your deen. And if you're not well equipped, then you're going to fall. So when I talk to someone, going to the question, and when I talk about, most people don't know what they're talking about, because when they quote people like the Richard Dawkins and many of the other prophets of atheism, the words they use, the things they say, half their books they haven't read, and they're using terms they don't understand. They're confused, so you go with them and you fall in a pit of confusion, and this is Shaitan's trap. So just because your head is spinning and they're just giving empty rhetoric, it doesn't make any sense. We go to what makes sense. The deen makes sense. And sometimes it making so much sense confuses you, because you're listening to the professor and half the stuff you don't understand, and you're like, wow, he's so smart. But how can this be so simple? It's easy to understand. It's basic 101, because the message is for everyone, not just for the academic, but the person when he goes, the Bedouin when he goes to the desert and he sees the dung, or he sees the footsteps of the camel, he says, this is the camel. Everything out, this is from the camel. But the signs that I see around me, the sun, the moon, the desert, these are the signs that there is an almighty creator, Allah. Ibn Taymiyyah, one of the great scholars, said, how can you asking for the evidence, the one who's asking for the evidence of the existence of Allah, how can you show him when the whole creation is screaming his existence? So we go back to, finishing this question, we go back to what makes sense. You have a few solid key points, not confusing, that anybody can go ahead and, because a lot of the arguments go back into these cosmological arguments, that everything that became into existence must have a cause. The universe came into existence, it has to have a cause. Nothing comes from nothing. So in order for something to come into existence, it has to have a cause. Common sense. Are you with me? Makes sense? Let me hear you. Yeah. Let me go through these real quickly. Second point, intelligent design. No, fine-tuning. The fine-tuning of the universe. Isaac Newton made the example of the solar system, relating it to a fine-tuning of a clock. Now who would think? Any watchmakers here? Nobody? Have you ever seen the details of what goes into a fine-tuned watch? Anybody? Would you think that came by accident? Fine-tuning of the universe. How everything is set for the components that we need to live on this earth. Everything is set. That a lecture could be given just on that. Then we have arguments by design. Some of the great codifiers, they call them, of logic. Socrates, Plato. These are like the intellectuals that everybody points to in all of these atheists. So the argument by design, you wouldn't think if you just went by, and Dr. Zabil gives a beautiful example, but if you go and you find a watch again on the shore of an ocean by the beach, you wouldn't think that this just designed itself. It was an accident. And then the moral argument, good and bad, where does it come from? If there's no creator, you got people in Germany and in Denmark, they are fighting for their right to have sex with animals. So you see, for the one who Allah elevates him, the creator elevates him to a high status, but the person, the human being, brings himself to such a low level. So I will bring the person back to some of these basic points, and then we'll bring him back to the OMG. The oneness of Allah, the messengership, the guidance that was sent, the hereafter, and then the miracles. I just did a program of the prophecies of the Quran. Too many to list. The evidences are beyond and beyond. So if a person is sincere and humble, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide him. But it's on our duty just to share these facts, and then don't worry about it. Leave it to Allah. Be the best example you can be. Know your deen. And make sure you're sharing this message with clarity. And the Tawheed, when you make it clear, it stands out from everything else.
Good. MashaAllah, very good. Extremism and terrorism, these are acts. They can be done by a person of Islamic faith, Christian faith, or no faith. Islam do not have a monopoly on it. Important. So I mentioned to them that the 406,000, not 100, 406,000 deaths by gun violence, every single act is an act of terrorism. Important. Then we also mentioned what happened in New Zealand, that guy who killed 49 people. That's an act of terrorism by a Christian terrorist. In Norway, Andre Breivik, 78 people were gunned down by a person who identified himself as a Christian. So what I say to them is, every single one of them is an act of terrorism. And point number 2 is that if you agree, I say this to my non-Muslim friends and colleagues in the open houses, I say to them, raise your hand if you say and if you believe that every life is equal in the eyes of God. Life of a Muslim, a Christian, a Jew, an atheist, every life is equal. They all have to raise their hand. They cannot deny that. Allah says, translation, do not go to extreme because Allah does not love the extremist. Really important. So what are the guidelines, the etiquettes of a just war? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, or the Prophet mentioned, in one of his battles, he saw a woman dead. He was not happy. He called his companions and he told them that even in a war, do not kill women and children. That means no non-combatant should be touched, harmed or killed. That's how careful is Islam in a just war.
This one is addressed to you, Sheikh. It says Sheikh Rezni, so they took your title, put on me. I'm just getting old here.
No, that's you. You're also Sheikh. Don't worry.
It says, what if someone asks you that if you die tomorrow and you end up being in Jahannam, the hellfire, and the God you were claiming to, and the God you were worshiping to is non-existent, how would you respond to them? Well, first, that if you're not going to end up in the hellfire or anywhere if there's no God, according to them. The second, I would flip the question and I would say, but if there is, which we know there is, a creator, God Almighty Allah, then what are you going to do? And it's just a real quick example. If, let's say, you're heading down the freeway and a good friend of you, a trustworthy friend, has never lied to you, he's always told the truth, he don't even play jokes when he lies, he's telling you, look, get off here at this exit because there's a 6-7 hour traffic jam coming up ahead. He's a trustworthy person. You're going to ignore this friend of yours, just get off, or you're going to be stuck, take a chance being stuck now in the 7-hour traffic jam. Small example, but something greater is all these messengers. They weren't liars, they really existed. Abraham, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Moses, Noah, Jesus, and the last and final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, they're all saying the same thing. No two philosophers can get it right. They all have different opinions, but they're all coming and communicating the same question. Worship the one God alone. Be morally upright and prepare for what comes next. And then what and where did you go wrong? You got a believable message based on proof and evidence that's helping you to become a better human being. A whole roadmap to personal development. Everything that Allah told us to do is good from us. From the Salat, you got the Tony Robbins of the world. You got the Oprah Winfrey's, all talking about meditation in the morning, 20, 30 minutes, closing your eyes, reflecting, being grateful. Is that not Salah? From the movements that we benefit from, they can tell you in the yoga benefits, we're not doing it for yoga or any of that, but we get the best from grounding. I did a talk on grounding. When you get your head to the ground, we do it for the spiritual benefits, but we're getting all the sort of physical. The EMF rays that the stress from the body, subhanAllah, benefit upon benefit. You do it to be grateful, show gratefulness to your Lord. The things that He told us to stay away from. We don't need WHO, the health organization, to tell us that every 10 seconds someone is dying from alcohol. Allah loves us and He told us to stay away from it. The pork. Just go ahead and read all of the disasters from the health that will happen. The tapeworms that you get in your brain. Amazing. SubhanAllah. Fasting right now, it's a huge trend. Intermittent fasting.
18 hours and 6
This is amazing. So everything, look, gambling, it's the second growing fastest addiction, breaks up homes, and the list goes on. Porn, #1 addiction. So everything that Allah told us to do, it's for us. He don't need it. It benefits us. We don't need the Tony Robbins and all the other motivational speakers. Yeah, maybe we can get some good stuff here and there, but it's all in the deen. So when you practice the deen, you get the best of both worlds because you benefit with it in this life, but then you got the ultimate reward in Jannah, inshallah.
I think we have to close out now.
There's a quick.
This is hypocrisy for us to talk about atheists.
But if they wrote what they think, and I read what they think, and I present them right, I think it's equal. Same thing if the people will represent Islam without the presence of any Muslim, but they read from the Quran and the Sunnah the right way, and the actual saying of theirs, it makes no difference.
Anytime, and we always make that clear, you're dealing with any human being. You deal with them because the Prophet ﷺ said, I have not been sent except to perfect good manners. So when you deal with people, when you're in the dawah field, with any human being, no matter what, atheist, Christian, you deal with them compassion, mercy, and love. But the ideas that people come with, that we talk about, someone's confused, it's out of the love that we go ahead and we're trying to reason and talk with people, so it's those ideas that we challenge.
If you have more questions, me and Brother Eddie would be there at the bazaar, at the Deen Show booth and the Game Peace booth.
You inspired me to a level where the fire starts to ignite inside.
And obviously the scholars
I used to think in the darkness, how could one being really be the one to tell us
Spoken
how
word.
to become something so sacred? I was in the pits of hell, man. I was filled with hatred. I was wondering, man, I know my own path. Look at me, I'm so strong. I can choose what I want to do. I can choose any job. I can breathe when I want to breathe, but then I heard my heart beats and my subconscious makes it think 3 times before I can really think what to do, right? I got on my knees, I put my hands on the floor. I said, Ya Allah, please, I'm trying to seek in my Lord. Made a lot of money, so I thought I was good. The pride and greed made me hungry. So Allah said, no, you're not ready for it. I was wondering, feeling like, man, I'm eating, but my hunger is still rumbling. Understand, man, the whole prophecy, the bubble is so easy, so sensitive. The human indemnity, that's Allah, is the insurance. We still don't understand it. We look up to the stars, but you know, human pollution made it so hard to see the skies. That's Allah. Thank you so much for letting me share these words.
Man, see, we don't need Eminem or 50 Cent, and we don't need all the beats and all the satanic tunes. We got the spoken word here.
I was a freestyle, just right off the top.
Cover a lot of ground, a lot of exciting topics. You don't want to miss out. You want to be here every Friday, and then we'll try to give you some short reminders in between. But you can't get that if you're not coming back to the show every week. Fridays we'll be releasing it, God willing, inshallah. Subscribe right now and enjoy all of the content that we're going to be putting out for you. Thank you. Peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum.